What's happening, everybody? A lot to talk about today. It's Thursday. I got my man Rohan here. How you doing, Ro?
I'm doing good, man. I mean, we've definitely got a lot to talk about because the 49ers blessed us with some extra news. And so we're going to see, this week 8 matchup just got a whole lot more interesting.
It sure did, man. Brock Purdy concussed. I did not misspell this title when I said Kirk Donald in. That was intentional. Man, so much to talk about, Rohan. Let's run the intro. Give us 25 seconds. This is going to be a good show. This one might go a little longer than normal because there is a ton to talk about. I appreciate all you guys being here. Give us 25 seconds.
You're down to the right place. And now your host, Ryan Hensley.
Man, oh man, Rohan, we got a lot to talk about today. That is for sure. Let's get through all the stuff we need to get through so we can get into the good stuff. Just so you guys know, this is every morning I eat something like a healthy breakfast, and then I get a little unhealthy. This is black coffee. That's pretty good. A little black coffee. Gotta have your water. That's good for you. This is bad, a little bang. But I'm gonna need all three of these to get through. Excuse my if I'm a little caffeinated today, but I need it, man. I appreciate all you guys tuning in. Real quick, let's pay some bills here. The Ryan G. Hensley Show is sponsored by Underdog Fantasy. Now, don't skip through this. This part is really important. Most of these companies like Underdog Fantasy and all these other online sports betting companies will match your initial deposit up to 100, sometimes 125. Right now, Underdog Fantasy is sponsoring up to $500. So if you deposit $500, they will match that and give you another $500 in your account. If you're a first-time user and you go to Underdog Fantasy and use promo code Hensley, that is a substantial amount of money. Don't put all that money in there if you need to pay your bills. Please gamble responsibly. But if you are in a position where you want to do it, this is a tremendous temporary opportunity. So click the link in the description. Use the promo code Hensley. They will match up to $500. That's crazy. Next, Blue Water Credit is a sponsor of the show. If you want to fix your credit, go to Blue Water Credit. The details are in the description. Fill out the form. There's like an online form. Let them know that Ryan G. Hensley sent you. They'll give you a free assessment. They'll run your credit, give you a free evaluation, tell you what you need to do, how much it's going to cost, all that good stuff. So make sure you tell them Ryan G. Hensley sent you. They will take care of you. They're a legit company who I've been using for over a decade. There's a lot of bad credit companies in the world out there but that really don't do much. This is not one of them. This is a very good company. I trust them with my clients. You can trust them. Also, Hensley Real Estate and Mortgage. That's what I do. I have been in real estate since 2009. I love doing it. If you want to buy a house, sell a house, you need to get approved for a loan, hit me up, as well as Hensley Solar. Once we get you the house, we can put solar on it through Hensley Solar. So I appreciate all that. Details in the description for all of those things. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you're not liked yet, hit the like button on my channel, Rohan's channel. If you're watching over there, make sure you're subscribed to both Rohan and I, and you click that notification button. That way you get notified whenever we go live. Rohan, man, so much to talk about, but I got to start off positive every morning. So it's mandatory that we start off positive, right? We got to do this. I want to get your take on this after I'm done, but let's talk about goals and achieving goals. I'm big on goals, Rohan. So dreams are fun, man. Goals are real. I set goals in all aspects of my life, business, financial, health, personal, travel, etc. You need to set measurable, specific, achievable, realistic goals. You want to challenge yourself, but not make your goals too unrealistic so you can't achieve them. Start with your goal and work your way backwards. Create a plan that'll help you get there. Organize your calendar around those goals. But here's the key, and we talked about this before, discipline. It's the key ingredient to success. You can set goals, create a plan and schedule that'll get you there, but you have to have the discipline to follow that schedule and do the work even when you don't want to. It's not going to be easy, and in fact, it's going to be hard, as most worthwhile things are, but it'll be worth it in the end. Stop dreaming and start setting goals. Make it happen. Rohan, are you a goal setter?
Absolutely. I think goal setting is, a very important thing just because I think it's important to have something to strive for. When you're doing everything, I think it's important to have a purpose for why you're doing it. And a goal is a part of the reason for that purpose. So I definitely set goals for myself personal life, YouTube, my work life, everything that I do, I try and set goals so that, I have a benchmark that I'm trying to accomplish and go from there.
Yes, sir, man. I live and die by goals on every aspect of my life. Goals are super important. Make sure you guys are turning your dreams into goals and making it happen. You can achieve so many things, man, if you just do the damn thing. Brother Bob is here this morning. So Brother Bob's name was RLB2ESQ, and I said your name's too long, so he changed it to Brother Bob RLB2ESQ, and now it's beyond pissed off. Brother Bob RLB2ESQ, which is the longest name on YouTube. Kind of defeats the purpose, Bob, but I'm super glad you're here, man. Melvin says coffee is for suckers. I'm a sucker, apparently, Melvin. Thanks, bro. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. Man, I need my caffeine to get through the day. I wake up about 6 a.m. every morning. I work out, eat my breakfast, take a shower, come out here, do my show. Then I work in real estate. I need my caffeine, man. I can't lie. All right, Rohan, man, let's dive into what the people are here for today. First and foremost, man, Brock Purdy concussed. None of us saw it or knew it at the time. And we go back and look, it was that quarterback sneak. He got just headhunted in that game on the QB sneak. So it makes sense that he does have a concussion. I don't buy into the conspiracy theories. I believe that he is concussed. Apparently, he started getting symptoms on the way home on the flight. It's a short week. Will Brock Purdy play on Sunday? What are the chances? What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now it's definitely trending towards no. I don't anticipate him practicing at all this week. Yesterday was a walkthrough, so he was, allowed to participate. I don't see him practicing, though, at all this week because usually those guys who are in concussion protocol are limited on the final day, which is Friday of practice. Brock Purdy doesn't get that leisure because he's on a short week, and so he's one day, like he misses one day. He loses one day in the practice schedule. And so I don't envision him practicing all week. And I also think because of the short week, and I mean, if we're being honest, he took a hell of a shot on that 3rd-and-1 sneak. He took a hell of a shot. So you can understand where the concussion symptoms are coming from because that was a pretty big, pretty big shot from the linebacker on that play. And so I do think he'll end up missing this week likely, which means it's time for Sam Darnold for the first time this year.
Yeah, and Yazan Williams says Kirk Donald. Yeah, I did it on purpose because I feel like this, the trade week is looming. So we're going to talk about Kirk Cousins as well, and then Sam Darnold is playing. So I did it on purpose. We'll play on words. Kirk Donald, combination of the two. I did it on purpose, man. I'm glad you caught it. Yeah, it was not a misspell. Yeah, I don't think Brock Purdy's going to play. I think it's very unlikely. Adam Schefter actually said the exact same thing. He says it's very unlikely that Brock Purdy plays. Now it's possible. Everyone says it's possible. I forget the doctor's name that I'm friends. I'm horrible with names, but he said it's definitely possible that Brock Purdy comes back and plays. So who knows? Maybe this is all over nothing. Maybe it's the Brock Purdy comeback game on Sunday. Apparently, he's not going to be able to practice. Kyle Shanahan talked about how he played last year against the Seahawks without practicing and still played. So it's possible that Brock Purdy actually plays on Sunday. I just think it's very, very unlikely. And I think most people would tell you the same thing, especially on a short week. So I would, if I had to wager, I'm wagering that it's Sam Darnold is going to play. Wanted to get your take on this, Rohan. Now that we know he was concussed about the 7-minute mark in the fourth quarter, 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, after he was hit in the head on that play, his performance was awful, especially the last 2 drives of the game. Just not great passes. Kind of unlike Brock Purdy. Do you think it's fair to say his performance was due to his concussion?
Now, I'm going to refrain from any absolutes because I'm not a doctor. And so I don't really know how much a concussion immediately impacts your performance. But you do point out the fact that I honestly liked Brock Purdy's performance from Monday. I thought he played well, especially up until that moment. I thought there were 3 very key decisions that Brock Purdy did not play well in, which were the 2 interceptions, and then there was a ball on the first drive of the second half where it was 2nd and 13, and Brock Purdy decided, it was the one where he nearly fumbled, but it was ruled down and he was sacked. It was the one where he should have just checked that ball down to CMC, tried to spin to his left, make a hero play, ends up getting sacked. I thought that was the lone other bad decision egregious one. There were some misses, but I thought that those were the three really bad decisions. But the point being, two of those came after he was injured, and I think you do have to factor it in. I think you do, just because there was a disparity in performance overall. I don't think though Brock Purdy played bad in this game, and like I said, I'm not a doctor, so I don't really know to the extent of how much he was impacted, especially because the symptoms were only starting to be there. At least Brock Purdy reported them on the plane ride home, and so I do think that that's valuable. But I also think overall, when it comes to it, when you're going to look at it, in the rearview mirror, you're going to look at just how did the play overall go. And unfortunately, after that stage, it wasn't great play from Brock Purdy, whereas it was pretty darn solid before that.
Yeah, I'm going to answer that question too in a second. Alberto Soto says, is Trent playing Sunday? I think he is.
At the
I
moment,
haven't
it looks
announced
like
it.
he's trending up. He didn't practice yesterday, but I'd assume
Yeah.
I'd hope he plays at least.
Yeah, Kyle talked about he could have probably played, but he didn't really want to rush it, especially on that turf, on that field in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming he's going to play, but we don't know. It hasn't been officially announced yet, so we'll find out. Yeah, so the question was Brock's poor late game performance due to his concussion. I think it's a viable excuse. I know somebody in here said stop protecting Brock Purdy, but whether or not it played a part or not, I don't know. Like Rohan, I'm not a doctor. Even though I no, I'm not even gonna make a joke about it. I'm not a doctor, right? I was gonna tell you, anyways. It's inappropriate, so I'm not gonna say that joke. I'm gonna keep it in here. But I will say, again, who knows? But I don't think it's a crazy thing to say that maybe he was rattled. I mean, he has a concussion. Yes, he didn't start getting symptoms till he was on the plane, but could it have played a part in his decision making? I think so. And there's something else I want to talk about too, and it's it's not concussion related, but I've watched Brock Purdy's highlights in college, and I've noticed a couple plays over the last 2 weeks from Brock Purdy, and I don't think this is necessarily related to the concussion, but where he, instead of taking a sack, he tries to throw the ball away. He did that a lot in college, like where he's almost to the ground, he just throws it up. And it created a lot of freaking problems for him in college. He had a lot of interceptions and fumbles because of doing that. And I noticed he started to do that the last couple of weeks. He's got to stop doing that because if he throws it backwards, that's a fumble. And if he just throws it in the air, that it could be an interception.
The intentional grounding, it could be an interception. You got to get back to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, just fall down, dude. Stop doing that. And he did it a lot in college. If you go watch his lowlights, there's a lowlight video of him on YouTube, and he did it a lot, man. So he's got to stop doing it. But to answer the question, was Brock's poor late game performance due to a concussion? I think it's possible it was, but also maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But I think it's a viable excuse. I don't think it's just some random BS that we're throwing out trying to protect Brock. I try to be pretty objective no matter who the quarterback is and be real and be honest, but also be fair. Yeah. And I think it's fair to assume that it could have been a problem. Great Tone says, stop blaming the defense and put accountability on Purdy and Kyle. We're actually going to talk about that later on in the show, so stick around. I think that's definitely a topic. I think Wilkes might be a little scapegoated right now, so we're going to get to that as well. I want to get your take on this, Rohan. This is another thing outside of the arm, or excuse me, outside of the concussion. Brock Purdy, during the preseason, there was a quote when he said, I'm still working up my strength to 100%. Kyle and John said he is 100%. There's also a quote of Brock saying he's 100%. Now, Troy Aikman comes out on Monday night and says Brock told him his arm's not 100%. What the hell's going on with Brock's arm? Is it 100%? Who do we believe? When do we believe him? Because there's a lot of mixed messaging going on. What do you think?
To me, at this point of the season, I don't care. Like if it's not like you're playing. You're playing. If you're playing, I'm not gonna devalue your arm strength. I'm gonna just call it as it is. I mean, if his arm looks weaker, then unfortunately, guess what? That's the type of play that we should expect. I don't have any, indication that his arm should just magically improve 8 weeks through into the season. So if his arm's not at 100%, there's a true argument where you don't know, especially given the way that his injury was, you don't know if his arm is ever going to be back to 100% based on what it was. So I do think that if this is a thing, is it a concern? I don't necessarily think so, because I do think Brock has found a way to play, pretty solid football this year, even with the arm strength that he currently has, even if it's maybe a small notch down. I also didn't think that his arm strength was that great at any point in his career. I think it was other things. And in fact, if his arm strength's not 100%, I honestly think that in a way it's a little more impressive that he's throwing with the anticipation and timing that he has through, at least take out these last two, well, take out the Cleveland game really, but he's thrown with good anticipation and timing, gotten the ball to the correct spot. And so if his arm strength is a little bit down, that means those factors only have an increased purpose, and so I'm not gonna give him an excuse in this case, because even if his arm's not at 100%, you're playing at this stage, and when it's regular season time, you're going to be judged on how you play, regardless of, if you're playing, you're not injured. So that's kind of the way that you look at it.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily saying it as an excuse. I'm just confused. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have been saying that he's 100%. Brock Purdy did come out in the preseason say he's working up his arm strength. Now Troy Aikman, who I believe says that Brock Purdy told him, I don't think he would just make that up. He said Brock Purdy's still working up his arm strength. And then Kyle Shanahan was asked by Grant Cohn, and he gave a one-word answer, which was no, he has not told me that. So it's just a big mystery around Brock Purdy. Like, is his arm strength 100%? Not that it's an excuse. I'm just curious. Like, is this guy out here throwing with 100% arm or not? Like, what is the truth about this situation? I think it makes sense that he's not 100%. I was surprised that they were telling us he was 100% in June or July. Whenever they said that, it didn't really make sense. So yeah, it's just weird to me, man. I don't know. It'd be nice to have a little bit more transparency. I know they're not obligated to do that for us as fans or media or whatever we want to call ourselves, content creators, but it would be great. I would love to know what the hell is really going on with that arm. But regardless, it looks like most likely your boy, not your boy, but Sam Darnold is going to be playing on Sunday. That's most likely what's going to happen this Sunday. Can Sam Darnold have success on Sunday, and how? What does it look like? What do you see coming?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think he can have success on Sunday, and that's why I think it's going to be intriguing. I tweeted out yesterday that you might see some intriguing quarterback storylines. I didn't mean that as I don't think Sam Darnold can take Brock Purdy's spot, but instead I think that this is where you truly can evaluate the argument of, does any quarterback play well in this system, right? Because you have a quarterback playing at a high level, MVP-esque level, with the way that he's being treated in the odds, right? And then you're now going to have Sam Darnold come in. I mean, if Sam Darnold also plays at a high level, I think you can, you may be able to say, well, guess what? You could throw anybody back there, and they're going to be a respectable starting quarterback, that kind of thing. So that's kind of where I was looking at it. But can Sam Darnold have success on Sunday? I think so. Yeah. I think as the number one thing with the 49ers, yeah, I like that you said how, is taking care of the football. So the number one thing for Sam Darnold, his issue in his career has been his inability to take care of the football. Now, he might be inconsistent, but the receivers are going to be open. He's going to have open receiver. This is going to be his best situation ever. He's going to have if Trent Williams returns, he's going to have a flourishing run game. Cincinnati has struggled on the run, especially to the left side. And so he's going to have a flourishing run game to work about that he can kind of rely on. He's also going to have open receivers. That's something Kyle Shanahan consistently does. And so, the combination of that, I think, will allow for some comfortability for Sam Darnold, to where even if he makes mistakes, I do think that there's going to be enough for him to be successful. And so we'll see exactly how it goes. And truly, it's up to Sam to put the ball out of harm's way. If he's able to do that, the 49ers offense can be efficient. But if he continues to put the ball in harm's way, then you might see, the 49ers beating themselves up and making some mistakes.
Yeah, I think, believe it or not, I think it's really dependent on the run game. And I think that's why in part we've seen Brock Purdy struggling the last couple of weeks. And actually last week he played good until the fourth quarter, if I'm being real. But in general, the run game is struggling. People don't want to acknowledge that. CMC is a great running back. But if all you do is run the ball with CMC, it becomes very predictable. And I feel like teams are figuring it out. The last 3 games for CMC, he's averaged 3.08 yards per carry, basically 3 yards per carry, which is not good. Jordan Mason's like 5.3 6, I think, yards per carry. So for whatever reason, Christian McCaffrey is unable to run the ball successfully. Last week, you can say Trent Williams wasn't there, and that makes a little bit of sense. I get it. But he wasn't doing good before that either. So I think a lot of this is the predictability of Kyle Shanahan and just his relentlessness to use CMC over and over again, particularly in the run game. Look, I like CMC. I think he's one of the best players in the NFL. I'm super glad we got him. He is extremely successful in the passing game, screen passes, out of the slot, things like that. That's where I think CMC is the most talented. Outside run game as well. But when it comes to running in between the tackles, in the A gap and the B gap, CMC's not the best player to do it. Jordan Mason is by far better than CMC at running up the middle through the A and the B gap. I don't care what anyone says. I know it pisses a lot of people off, but it's the absolute truth, in my opinion. And it makes no sense to me why they're not doing it. I've been saying this all season long. They are running the hell out of CMC, and it makes no sense. And teams are starting to figure it out, and he's becoming less successful. I don't get it. But if Sam Darnold wants to have any success this Sunday, the 49ers have to be successful in the run game. I think that's huge, and it's going to be very important. If Sam Darnold wants to have success and the 49ers want to win this game, what they need is a successful run game and ask Sam Darnold to not throw more than 25 times. Sam Darnold is actually very talented with his arm. He can make every throw on the field. And the 49ers have the most wide open receivers in the NFL. Statistically, it's just a fact. Kyle Shanahan dials these wide receivers wide open. So if you're a quarterback for the 49ers, your job is to get the ball to your playmakers. They're going to be wide open, and that's all you have to do. You don't have to do too much. Now, when they're coming, when they fall behind, when the game plan is not working, that's when we're seeing Brock Purdy struggling, and that's when I would worry about Sam Darnold struggling as well. Hopefully that's not the case. The key is the run game's got to be successful. We got to get Jordan Mason out there, like my boy Josh Cullivan is saying right now. It's so crucial to me. Mix it up. Keep CMC healthy. Also, Jordan Mason is damn good. I don't care what anybody says. I think all of us as fans have been saying this for a long time now, so I don't think there's any disagreement. Jordan Mason is good. I don't understand what Kyle's deal is. A lot of people say it's the pass blocking. I get it. But you can dial up things to where he's out there just to run the ball up the middle and give CMC a break. And Jordan Mason is more effective between the tackles. Just how it is, man. Do you think my formula for success for Sam Darnold is accurate, Rohan? What would you change?
Yeah, I think it's semi fairly accurate in terms of I do understand your concern. You don't want to overrun CMC. You also don't want him facing a rib or an oblique injury less a third into the season. That's not ideal. I think Jordan Mason is a good player. I mean, I've been an advocate for him since I saw him play last year. But I also think that there's nobody on this offense that does what CMC does. And I also think Kyle Shanahan has a personal attachment to him. CMC is clearly Kyle Shanahan's favorite guy in the offense. I mean, he wants to feature him in any way possible. And I said this with Vish yesterday. I think it's just because that's the way Kyle Shanahan gets to utilize his creativity. It's these versatile guys that, he can utilize in a multiple, or he can, find different ways to get them the ball. I think that's where Kyle Shanahan utilizes his creativity best. And so that's kind of what he wants to highlight. But I think Jordan Mason can, I think he should see the field a little bit, be it him or Elijah Mitchell. I think they should see the field a little bit. I think they trust Mitchell more. But you do hope that there's a little more balance of the carries to allow him to freshen up, especially him coming off an oblique injury, one that could linger. Oblique injuries aren't great, but so I can understand your route for success. I do think the run game will be integral, though. I think the run game will be integral just because Cincinnati hasn't seen as much success, especially if Trent's back. You can pound the run a little bit more, and you could try and win the time possession game and things like that, and not take the game out of Sam Darnold's hands, but neutralize him so that he doesn't become such a negative factor that you hope he doesn't become. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible Sam Darnold comes out and plays really well. It just kind of depends on the Cincinnati Bengals defense, what they do and if they're able to stop the run. If they stop the run and now the game's on Sam Darnold's shoulders, that's when I'm going to worry. But if the run's effective on Sunday versus the Bengals, I think Sam Darnold could be successful if he's only asked to pass 20, 25 times to wide open wide receivers. I think it's definitely possible. Let me ask you this next question. It's been brought up by a lot of people. I want to get your take on it. Some people are saying that if Sam Darnold comes out and balls out, that he can take Brock Purdy's job. Are you buying that?
Personally, no. and this might be personal belief more than what I've seen on the field this year because we haven't seen Sam Darnold at all. I just don't think Sam Darnold's that good. I think he can be good in this offense. I think that, he could be the best he's ever looked in this offense. But overall, he's a good guy with a lot of physical talent. But in the starts that I've watched, I just don't think he's that good of a quarterback. I think especially the number one issue is he'll put the ball in harm's way too much, which is exactly what Kyle Shanahan does not want from his quarterback. I think Sam Darnold overall has a chance to look good on Sunday. And that could potentially bring up quarterback controversy a little bit. And I understand, you might have more opportunity with the deep ball, but Darnold hasn't been dead on accurate. He's not a very accurate quarterback throughout his range. It's one thing to have the deep ball. It's another thing to be accurate with the deep ball and also be accurate, more importantly, with those intermediate throws that Brock Purdy has excelled at. That's where the bread and butter of the 49ers offense is. And that's why a guy like Brock Purdy has looked so well. It's because that's an area he's excelled at. The other thing that I looked at that I saw in training camp and in the preseason that worries me in this offense specifically is Sam Darnold's processing. I think Sam Darnold does not process very well. I think he's a slow processor. And in an offense like this, where you're trying to be, quick, get the ball out quick and, hit your first or second progression or get through the progressions quickly. I don't know if Sam Darnold possesses the capability to do that consistently at a high level. And so personally, I think Sam Darnold right now, I think he has the potential to look good on Sunday, and maybe that provides some controversy heading into the bye week. I just don't see a way where he currently takes Brock Purdy's shot.
Yeah, so let me answer this question after I highlight Brian Culp's comment. And what's up, Brian? He says, smash the like button, everybody. You should have smashed that like button by now. I agree, Brian. Thank you for the comment. Is there a chance Sam Darnold takes Brock Purdy's job? I think there's a small chance. I don't think it's likely. I mean, we have seen a lot of quarterbacks take people's gigs because of injury. I mean, Kaepernick did it to Alex Smith. Brock Purdy did it because he took Jimmy Entree's job because of injury. So is it possible? It's entirely possible. I just don't think it happens over one game. And I also don't think Sam Darnold's the guy to do it. Now, I could be wrong, but here's the case for it. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch offered that 12-round pick that they traded to move up in the draft to get Trey Lance. They offered that to the Jets to get Sam Darnold. They were going to give not a 12th. Did I say 12th round? The 12th overall pick in the first round, right? The 12th overall pick in the first round. John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan offered that to the Jets for Sam Darnold. They were fans of Sam Darnold coming out of the draft. They believe in Sam Darnold. They said Sam Darnold could be the next Steve Young. So Kyle Shanahan really likes Sam Darnold, and I don't think people realize it. I know a lot of fans don't like Sam Darnold, but Kyle Shanahan definitely does. And Sam Darnold can make some throws that Brock Purdy just can't. Now, to your point, I agree. Yeah, processing is his weakness and Brock Purdy's strength. So whether or not Sam Darnold can actually come out against the Bengals and ball out, I don't know. Now, if he comes out and he throws for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, we might have a long 2 weeks through the bye week talking about who's going to play and whatnot. But in general, I think no. I think Kyle will stick with Brock Purdy if it's just one decent game from Sam Darnold, especially if he plays bad. I think he'd have to play phenomenal and just way better than anything we've seen from Brock Purdy so far to roll with Sam Darnold. But there's a chance he might, man. There really is a small chance he might. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't think it's going to happen.
I like your argument that it's just one game. That's the tough part, right? If you had a bigger body of work, maybe, but one game, I find it tough. So, yeah, I agree.
Case 49 makes a good point, too. We don't know what's been happening in practice. Maybe Sam Darnold has been hooping, right? We don't know. It's entirely possible, too. So that's a good point, Case. All right, man. Next question for you. This one triggers a lot of the fan base. It's so weird, man. Whenever you bring up Trey Lance, we can't talk about Trey Lance. Don't talk about him. Get over it. Here's the funny thing, man. I'm never not over a player. Like, that's what people don't realize. I'm never not over a player. I don't give a damn. Like, there's people I like players. I'm not that guy. I'm not a fanboy, regardless of what all you guys think that try to troll me and get mad. I own 0 jerseys. I cannot wear a jersey with another man's name on my back, especially a guy younger than me. If I was going to buy a jersey, it'd be like a legend, like Ronnie Lott, Steve Young, Jerry Rice, somebody like that. That's who a jersey I'd buy. Those are the guys I look up to as a fan. Now, if you do, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to tell people how to fan. If you're that kind of fan, hey, man, all the power to you. If you're a Homer fan, that's great, man. Do your thing. I'm not. So when I bring up Trey Lance, don't misunderstand it. I'm not some Trey Lance fanboy, but Trey Lance played for the 49ers. He was traded in August to the Cowboys. And the reason why is because supposedly Sam Darnold beat him out in training camp. I was at training camp. Rohan was at training camp. I don't know what your take is, but I don't think there was a clear winner between Sam Darnold and Trey Lance. And if anything, I would have leaned Trey Lance's way for the days I was there. I also think Trey Lance's last preseason game on the 49ers, at the end, he started off a little shaky, but those last, whatever it was, 8 passes was some of the best passes I've seen from a 49er quarterback in a long time. So people that just say, oh, well, Sam Darnold beat out Trey Lance. It's not that simple. There's more involved. I think a big reason why they decided to make Sam Darnold number 2 is because he's not coming for Brock's job. He's looked at as number 2. That's what I think had a lot to do with it. It's the political aspect of it. Now, a lot of people disagree with me, but when it comes to this question, who would you rather be shooting up Sunday? Would you rather it be Sam Darnold or Trey Lance? I took a poll on Twitter. 55% of the people out of the 1,500 people that voted so far with 6 hours left said Trey Lance. They would prefer Trey Lance be suiting up on Sunday. So I think it's a relevant question, being that he was just traded in August. Well, I want to get your take. Who would be better for Sunday, in your opinion? Sam Darnold or Trey Lance?
I think this is fair. And I mean, if you look back to training camp, right, I think that you could definitely make an argument for either quarterback. I think the point that you said it was I don't know if there was a clear winner, and maybe if there was, I'd probably give the edge to Trey Lance. But if I'm being honest, and I know you probably will have a different take, but if I'm being honest, I couldn't care less. I honestly think that right now, whatever quarterback plays in this system is going to play fine. I do think that, especially the reason that I say that is because this is a 1-game situation at the moment where it's a concussion, right? I expect Brock Purdy to be back after the bye if he likely misses this game. And so for a 1-game situation, I don't really think there's that big of a difference in their floors for me to say that I prefer one quarterback over another. Now, do I think one might be a little bit better? Sure. But do I think that better, like one being better, makes as big of a difference, especially in this system? No. And so I think both have, if Trey Lance was in the position Sam Darnold was in, I think he'd have an opportunity to play well as well with this offense, with the way the 49ers might run the football a lot more against Cincinnati. I think both quarterbacks would be in a, position to succeed against this team. So that's my answer. Would I rather it be Trey Lance? No. I mean, would I be mad if it was Trey Lance? No. Would I rather it? Not really. I don't really care, because I think that the outcome overall, I don't think it shifts that much with either quarterback under center for 1 game.
Okay, yeah, and let me be clear, man. I wasn't trying to insult you guys that wear jerseys. That's not that's not what I was trying to do. I apologize if you guys feel insulted. I'm just saying that's not me. I can't do it. Maybe my pride, my ego is too big. I don't know what it is, but I can't do it unless they're somebody older than me, one of the legends. And again, if you guys do it that way, I don't think there's anything wrong. I never look at people that wear jerseys and think there's something wrong with it. I'm just saying, me personally, I can't do it. So that's the point I was trying to make. And GTC says, "Let it go, Ryan. Trey's not walking through the door. Listen to Flav. You want Darnold." And I know GTC probably is half joking here, but when people say let it go, like there's nothing for me to let go. I let go of it. But what I'm saying is this weekend, what we're going to see is Sam Darnold playing. And so the decision that was made in August is now relevant again. If Sam Darnold comes out and looks bad, the trade of Trey Lance is relevant. If he looks good, it's still relevant, because now we know Kyle made the right decision. And do I care who plays? No, it's not like I'm like, oh, I wish so much Trey Lance was playing. I just think he's a better quarterback than Sam Darnold, and it still doesn't make sense to me why he was traded in the first place. That was my take on it. So I wanted to explain that as well. All right, man. This is the next one that kind of pops up because of all of this stuff going on. Trade lines looming. Kirk Cousins just looked really good against the 49ers. I think this question's more about not just the trade deadline, but it's about next year. Are you all in on the Kirk Cousins trade talk, or do you think Kirk Cousins, what is it going to take for the 49ers to actually go get Kirk Cousins? What if Sam Darnold craps the bed this weekend and they're thinking about how, Kyle just watched the his first love at quarterback beat them in a game. He looked really damn good. I think he's better than Brock Purdy. I'll be honest. I think Kirk Cousins is better than Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold. Out of all three quarterbacks, to me, it's not even a question. Kirk Cousins is better. Do you think there's any desire at all for them to trade for Kirk Cousins? And second question, if the Sam Darnold or Brock Purdy don't ball out this year and they don't go far, do you think they get Kirk Cousins next year?
Trade, no. Sign, I would never put it out of the question. I was fully on the Kirk Cousins to 49ers in 2024. At the beginning of the season, if you were seeing that propaganda, I was probably involved because I honestly thought it was a very realistic possibility that the 49ers go out to get Kirk Cousins in 24. The reason being, and this was my bold prediction of the year, I did not think the 49ers were going to win a Super Bowl in 2023 with Brock Purdy at quarterback. Now, I don't think that doesn't mean I don't think they can get to the Super Bowl. I think they can. I even think they can get to the NFC Championship. I think they can get there. I just don't think they're going to win it. And if it comes down to it, the 49ers may experiment with a quarterback change. At least this was my theory back then, because that would be the lone position where they could look to improve and try and go all in 2024. Kirk Cousins provides you the opportunity to do that. And I do think that this is going to be a little bit of recency bias when you talk about Kirk Cousins, just because we just saw him absolutely dice up the 49ers defense. That was a masterclass from Kirk Cousins with the way that he was protected, with the way that, who was open. He consistently made the right read and the right opportunity. And so to me, about Kirk Cousins, do I think it's possible in 2024? Yes. But I also have to present the new evidence that we've seen, which is Brock Purdy has played pretty darn well in 2023, and so questions that you might have had around this team where you might have put more blame on the quarterback going into the year. I don't know if the 49ers don't win the Super Bowl, I don't know if you can solely pull or ultimately put the primary amount of blame on Brock Purdy. There might be different reasons as to why this 49ers team doesn't look good should they reach the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship. And so I do think the stance for me is tempered a little bit, but I'm never going to get it out of my mind because I do think that if the 49ers fall short and it's due to the quarterback situation, even if Brock Purdy's a top-tier option, you might just choose to go all in and try and get that ring. And that's what Kyle Shanahan might do by signing Kirk Cousins, essentially punting on the future and going all in 2024. I do think that is a possibility. Do I agree with it? Maybe not as much as before, but I can't erase it out of my mind. I do still think it's a possibility.
Yeah, I do, man. I'm a big believer in Kirk Cousins. I know people think that's crazy. A lot of people don't like Kirk Cousins for whatever reason, man. I think he's a top 10 quarterback in this league. And I think if Kirk Cousins was on the 49ers in 2019 instead of Jimmy Garoppolo, we would have a 6th Lombardi already. I really believe that. And I I still feel that way. I feel like the missing piece, and again, I know people get mad because I tell the truth about my opinions here. I balance the line of I'm a 49ers fan, man. I want the 49ers to win, but I also try to be objective and real about my team. That's how I approach things here. And I like Brock Purdy. I think he's a good quarterback. I just don't know if he's that guy. If I had to bet, I don't know. He was playing like it originally. Last year, I had my concerns. He started off really good, 5-0. He was doing well. I'm like, well, shit, maybe Brock Purdy is that guy. The last couple of games, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. That's why it's tough for me with quarterbacks in general. I need like 24, 36 months or at least like 3 seasons, 2 to 3 seasons worth of film to really come to a conclusion. I'm not sure whether or not I think Brock Purdy's the final answer or not. Now, do I think the 49ers can win a Super Bowl with Brock? I think yes. If he plays the way he did in the first few games, I think they can. But I think Kirk Cousins gives them a better chance, if I'm being real. And do I think they're going to trade for Kirk Cousins at the trade deadline? No, I don't think that's going to happen. I honestly think that there's a chance Brock Purdy plays this Sunday, a small chance. And if he can, they will play him. I think Kyle is bought in on Brock Purdy, and I don't think he's ready to give up yet. I don't think he would let Sam Darnold take over just if Sam Darnold has a decent game. I think this is still Brock Purdy's team. But I feel like if Sam Darnold is proven not to be that great and if Brock Purdy fizzles out this year, I think Kirk Cousins is a definite possibility for next year. That's my take on it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on from quarterbacks a little bit. Steve Wilks, man. Is Steve Wilks the scapegoat here? Is this deserved? I've kind of, dived into it. Obviously, I hated the call. I said it on Twitter when it happened at halftime. Why are you basically going cover zero in that situation? It wasn't cover zero, but it's close to it. You left Charvarius Ward on an island when all you had to do was make a tackle, run out the clock, and 49ers probably win that game. It was a bad play decision. Kyle Shanahan went on the record saying it was a bad play decision, which I found strange. But I also don't think it's fair. Last two games, the 49ers have only given up 19 points and 22 points. Typically, if your offense is doing what they're supposed to do, that should be enough to win. But the 49ers offense the last two games has only put up 17 points. So where's the blame deserved to be? Like, is this on Steve Wilks? Is he being scapegoated? What's Kyle Shanahan's responsibility on all this? Is the defense the problem? Is the offense the problem? There's like 20 questions for you, Rohan. Go.
Yeah, and I think there's a mix of it all. I mean, we'll first start with the call. That was a terrible call. Regardless of what you say, for a veteran coach, that was unjustifiable. And the point of the matter is the Minnesota Vikings play well in one-score games. That one play ultimately changed the direction of the game. Because if you go into halftime and it's a 10-7 game, you can operate differently coming out of half. You're going into halftime down 17-7. You had a chance to potentially, make the flip. You score and then you get the ball back, which is the 49ers' MO. They weren't able to do that. That call is unjustifiable. And so for that reason, I don't mind Kyle Shanahan. It's not, I wouldn't necessarily call it, excuse me, throwing him under the bus, but you do have to, you do have to call that play out because, your fans or whoever, media is going to require a response as to why that play ultimately went as they did. And, you can put whatever. You could say Charvarius Ward, you should have intercepted that. But the point of the matter is, if the exact play happens, but you have a safety back there and he tackles him, you don't even know if Minnesota is going to be able to get a playoff, right? The reason, though, that I don't fully put the blame on Wilks, it's on him for the play call. But Shanahan also is hearing. He's the one in tune with the headset. You have timeouts. It's not like they couldn't use a timeout. People are questioning, could you really, could the head coach really just can the play and then run a new play? You don't need to. You had a timeout. The clock is stopped at 16 seconds. You have a timeout there if you wanted to use it. There's no reason for you to not be able to use it there and not run that play. That was a poor decision. I put a majority of the blame on Steve Wilks, but as a head coach for Kyle Shanahan, you should be able to reverse that call. Now, yeah, so that's kind of my take on that. Before I get to the other stuff, what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I think Kyle's ultimately responsible. I think it was unfair for him to just blame that on Wilks when your team's putting up 17 and 22 points. Like, let's talk about you, sir. Like, let's talk about your overusage of CMC and his 3 yards per carry over the last 3 games. Let's talk about you abandoning your best weapon, Brandon Ayuk, in that game. He was targeted one time after, I forget when it was, but the second half, I believe, he was targeted one time and he was doing work. Why did you abandon Brandon Ayuk? Why are you targeting Jawan Jennings over Brandon Ayuk in that game? Didn't make a lot of sense. There's a lot of blame to go around, but I think if you had to put it on one unit, I would put it on the offense and them not performing, not the defense. The defense is actually doing pretty well. Now, that doesn't mean that the defense has no fault, right? That play was bad. It was a bad play call at the end of the half, and honestly, could have won the game had he not called that play. And I believe Nick Bosa is unhappy with Steve Wilks as a play caller, and I think honestly is justifiable because what he's saying is that we are a team good enough to just rush 4, drop those guys back in coverage. Here's the problem. It seems like Steve Wilks is either blitzing or he's playing very soft zone coverage when I think you need to do neither. You need to be doing like a press man cover 2, right? Get your corners up on these guys, rush 4, and then you're taking away the quick dump off and you're allowing Nick Bosa to get home. I think the biggest reason why we're not seeing Nick Bosa stacking sacks is because the receivers are open because we're playing this soft zone coverage, right? Or we're blitzing and there's an easy dump off. There's an outlet available. We need to go back to last year with what D'Amico did, and he didn't play the most aggressive man coverage either. But what I would like to see is rush 4, get your corners up. That way these receivers are not open, and this allows Nick Bosa to get home. You can't just entirely depend on Nick Bosa to get home if the receivers are open because that's an easy dump off for a quarterback like Kirk Cousins. I think that's the biggest problem. I like to see you play a little bit press man coverage, not blitz so much, rush 4, and I think you see this Niners defense take off. This Niners defense is extremely talented. I always see people talking about we need this, we need that, and I can see the argument for an extra DB. I can see that. But it's not like this roster isn't top 3 when it comes to talent defensively in the NFL. This is a very good roster. The problem is not talent on this roster. It's play calling. Now, does that mean I hate Steve Wilkes and that he's absolute garbage? No, I don't think so. Does that mean that he's the biggest problem and that this offense is doing fine? Absolutely not. It's on this offense as well. And it's also on freaking Jake Moody, who cannot make a kick, unfortunately. You know, he made one. Shout out to Jake Moody, man. Sorry, that's my vent, Rohan. What's your take, man?
So yeah, I like some of the stuff he thinks, and then I'll temper on some of the other things. I'll start with Kyle Shanahan. I do believe that he got a little too much blame at the end of this game. I think that there were certain things that are certainly on Kyle Shanahan. I talked about one, not being able to can, the halftime call. But if you look at this game offensively, the 49ers should have scored a lot more. Christian McCaffrey fumbles near the red zone on that first drive where you could have had, or he fumbled in the red zone when you could have had a score there. You talk about the Moody fumble. Moody missed kick near the red zone. That's 6 to 10 points right there that you miss off the board. Then you talk about the 2 interceptions in Minnesota territory at the end of the game. Those are 4 possessions where you could have had potential scoring opportunities and you come up empty. So I think the baseline for being able to score is there. I think you've got to be able to execute better on some of those. Obviously, it's an inexcusable fumble, an inexcusable missed kick, those kind of things, and then the 2 interceptions after Purdy gets concussed. And so you have missed opportunities there. I think defensively, the main issue is, they had a good mentality of bend, don't break, in that they didn't allow a lot of touchdowns. But you can't allow 5 consecutive scoring drives in a row. And I think a part of that is attributed to the play calling. A part of that is attributed to the execution. The pass rush did not get there. This was one of the games where I think the 49ers truly got stifled at the line of scrimmage. I think that's partially on the players and partially on the play calling. Going back to that cover 0 play, one thing that I saw, they blitzed I believe it was a safety or the nickel off the edge that Bosa was rushing out of. That limits Bosa entirely. You can't spin to the outside. You can't make a number of moves that you usually can make because there's another guy filling in the gap to your right and to your left. So you essentially have one option. You have to just bull rush your guy, and the offensive tackle knows that, and it's Christian Darrisaw, and so he's able to block there, and you just didn't get there in time. And I like your point about playing soft coverage and certain things. The 49ers do implement a lot of zone and a lot of blitzes, and the issue overall is if you're playing soft, well, guess what? Your blitz is neutralized because Kirk Cousins, a guy with his cerebral capabilities, is able to just identify where is my dump off route, where is the route where I'm supposed to, hit, especially on these crosser routes. A lot of times what happens is, you're going to see these crosser routes come across the line, come across the field. And if you're in soft coverage, well, the underneath space is available. Kirk Cousins threw for 378 yards. His average depth of target was 6.1 yards, but he executed flawlessly to where he was just consistently hitting the receiver where he needed to be, and the receiver was able to turn upfield and get a good amount of yards. It was a flawless execution. And you can say it was Kirk Cousins. He had a very good game. You don't expect this from many quarterbacks. However, in the playoffs, what are you expecting? You're going to face a Josh Allen, a Patrick Mahomes, one of the top upper echelon quarterbacks that have good cerebral capabilities and things like that. And so that's where I'm going to say it's a mix of the play calling and the execution. You can't allow 5 straight scoring drives. You can't. That's inexcusable. And then offensively, you've got to be able to execute there and be able to score. But there are certain ways that you can make your players put your players in better situations, essentially. And one thing that I will point to, I don't necessarily mind the McCaffrey usage as much. I do think that teams are now trying to find a way to stop McCaffrey more. That's why the efficiency is low, because against Dallas, that was the number one goal. Stop McCaffrey. That's why he had 51 rushing yards. Against Cleveland, it was sell out against the run. The number one thing, though, is now if they're selling out against the run, you might see lower numbers there, but you have to take advantage elsewhere. And the one thing that I want Kyle Shanahan to do more, utilize Brandon Ayuk more. you're right. Even when Deebo Samuel's not there, or even when McCaffrey is limited or whatever, you need to see more volume to Brandon Ayuk. He can't just get 6 targets, and he needs to be, higher in the progression. Vish said this yesterday, in that, I think that that's something that you could see more. And I think that that's something the 49ers need to encapsulate. You have to shy away from, the plays, the creativity that you might initially have, and instead try and focus on progressions that involve and feature Brandon Ayuk more to help out your quarterback in situations when they're trying to stifle the run. Because the way that you obviously set up the run is opening up the passing game, not only in the short range, but also in the intermediate and long range, that force the defenses to kind of respect you. So I think that there's a number of things that could work out. I believe it's a blend of execution, because the players ultimately have to do better. When you're given the opportunity, you have to be able to either be able to get a stop or be able to get the score. But I do think that the play calling is also involved there, and that you have to find different ways to put your players in better situations. And I think both Shanahan and Wilkes could do that a little bit better.
Yeah, and coming into this game, I haven't looked at it since, but coming into the game, the 49ers defense last year, I believe it was 45 or 44 sacks they had. Coming into this game, they were trending 42.5, so 2 less. Coming into that game, the 49ers last year, the 49ers had 20 sacks. Coming into that game, the 49ers defense was trending 28 sacks, or interceptions, which probably went up because they got another interception in that game. So the 49ers defense is actually trending more interceptions by a lot than they were last year.
Correct.
By a lot. Now, their sacks are down a little bit, but not a tremendous level. And I think Nick Bosa is frustrated because, and I agree with him, I think they need to be rushing 4. They need to be playing up in press man coverage. And they need to, they got great safeties. Leave 2 guys back there for protection. But you don't need to be playing this soft zone and blitzing, because that's opening up dump offs against quarterbacks like freaking Kirk Cousins. He's going to take advantage of that. I think there's a lot of blame to go around for Steve Wilkes. I'm not super thrilled with how Steve Wilkes has played, but I think there's equal blame on the offense right now, and I think that was my problem with it. It felt like Kyle was selling out, throwing Steve Wilkes under the bus a little bit, and not bringing up what his mistakes were, right? If you're going to criticize as a coach and a leader, if you're going to criticize Steve Wilkes publicly to the press, you need to also say, but we made a lot of mistakes on offense. I made mistakes on offense. There's things we could have done better. The whole team could have done these things better. I think that's what bothered me about that press conference in general.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing is that it was specifically about that play call, which is why I don't, have as big of a gripe, because I do think that other portions he did point out, different issues that they had. The one thing I'll also say is, I think the one thing that Shanahan and the 49ers need to improve, Fred Warner pointed it out. Other teams have found ways to win grimy games. San Francisco has now had 2 opportunities where you aren't playing well. But you're in the game. You should be able to find a way to close it out, and they did it both times, and I think this accounts for both sides of the field. I think that the last game, I think you can put it a lot more offensively, because the defense was lights out against, Cleveland. They still allow the score at the end or whatever. This game, I think you can put it on a blend. But, you have to figure out a way to close out these games. You can't – the one-score games are very fluctuating, and you do usually regress to the mean in these games. But the 49ers, in order to prove something to themselves, they got to find a way to not only come from behind, but also win these, games that aren't necessarily going your way. Right now, they haven't found the way to do that. They've won a lot of games this year, but not those close ones yet.
And it honestly feels like they're beating themselves, because these games are so close. They're 1 or 2 plays away from winning. 1 or 2 bad play calls by Kyle Shanahan or Steve Wilkes. 1 or 2, penalties by the 49ers, who are heavily penalized, by the way, right now. It's a big problem with the 49ers. They got to figure it out. They're one of the top penalized teams in the NFL, which I honestly put back on coaching. And to me, that's a discipline thing, which a coach is ultimately responsible for. Players got to execute, and the players are out there making the mistakes, but, no penalties, losing it. Like, honestly, you guys realize that we're losing games because of 1 or 2 plays. These last 2 games we've lost because of 1 or 2 plays, and they got to figure it out. Good teams figure it out, man. Rohan, let's talk about the next one. Trade targets. I know you wrote an article about it. I'm not sure how your thoughts are changing, but Halloween is the trade deadline, which is just about, a week and what is it? A week and a few days away. Who do you think the 49ers go out and trade for, or what positions?
Yeah, I think that this one here, this is something that that's been fluctuating in my mind because I do think the 49ers have the ability to go out and make a move. However, I also think the issue is that you have to balance this year and also your future. And I'm not saying you can't go all in this year. However, the 49ers have a tackle problem, not only with right now with Colton McKivitz, but they also have a potential retirement with Trent Williams. You're going to have to draft a tackle in this first round. This is a good tackle class. You need that first round pick. That's not going anywhere. At least it shouldn't go anywhere. You might also need to draft a tackle in the second round. So you might want your first two, your first two selections to fill in holes that potentially will come up either next year or the year after. And so I don't know if they're going to have the capital to make a splash move. And the other thing about a lot of the splashy targets this year, you talk about if you're looking at edge, Danielle Hunter, Montez Sweat, Chase Young, or if you're looking at cornerback, Jalen Johnson, a guy like that, even Pat Surtain. The number one issue overall is you're going to have to pay these guys. It's not just you trading. You're trading the capital so that you pay these guys. And so if you're paying these guys, well, you're going to now have to figure out some financials where the 49ers are already going to be a little bit cash strapped after they figure out potential extensions for a guy like Brandon Ayuk and things like that next year. And so overall, I think there's a lot of questions that go on because you have to figure out, do these people fit with big contract extensions into our future? That I don't know if that's I'm so sure of. I think the one thing that could help the 49ers is moving Diameter Lenore to the slot and potentially finding a corner. Dante Jackson was the guy that KP kind of threw out in one of his articles this week. I think that could be interesting because he's a little bit more athletic. And the reason that I think a more athletic corner on the outside works is because if you're running that press man scheme, you want a guy who has good speed to keep up with the duration of the route. That second kind of gear, that second burst at the top of the route, you want the speed to be good at the stem of the route for the cornerback so that you're essentially limiting that big playability. Whereas right now they don't necessarily have that. And so it's tougher to play press man with Lenore on the outside, even though he's done a fairly good job when he's playing physical in the short to intermediate range. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at. If I'm looking at positions, I think I know, it looks like they're interested in a corner. I don't know if that deal will be done. But the thing that I think I'll point to again, and it's something that I've thought about since the beginning of the offseason, I think their biggest splash move was Gregory. I don't think they make another big splash move defensively, not only because of the capital it'll require or the contract that they might have to pay the guy, but also because I just don't know if there's enough snaps to go around. You're right in that the 49ers should just rush 4 because that's something they have had success with. It also allows for creativity for all of their defensive linemen to utilize the majority of their pass rush moves because you have more space out there in the wide 9. I just don't know if they have enough room snaps-wise to incorporate other people, especially if you see a guy like Gregory who's flourishing, you want to give him more snaps. And so you don't want to isolate or you don't want to take out snaps from other people, which is why I think the thing that the 49ers defense does, the 49ers do with the trade deadline, if they make a move on top of potentially a cornerback, it might be a smaller move. One of those Omenihu type moves where you get a guy on team control. You get a defensive lineman on team control. And so he might not necessarily help you as much this year, but he could be a depth piece next year or even the year after. And that's a guy who you might be able to look to develop. You trade something for cheap. You still have a good amount of draft competition, and you keep your top picks. So that's kind of where I'm looking.
Yeah, great summary there, dude. So basically what you're saying is they probably will trade for a corner, you would assume, but it's not.
That's going to be my number. I would assume if they make a trade, it would be one for a corner.
But they're not going to be using that first round draft pick to do it, or possibly not even the second. So you're talking about not a certain type of corner. You're talking about somebody else, some other type of corner, mid-level corner maybe, or a top 20 type corner, not a top 10.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me, man. I think you're right on it. I don't think I want to add too much to that. I do think the 49ers end up getting a corner sometime within the next week. I think that happens. I don't think they're going to go after much else. I think the 49ers pass rush is talented enough. People don't think that's the case. They think we need to keep getting pass rushers. I think the guys they have are good enough. I think it's more of a scheme problem. They need to be rushing 4. They need to be a little tighter in the man coverage, or at least play a less softer zone than they're playing right now. I think that is the main reason why you're not seeing guys get home as much as they are. But also, they're getting home more than you guys realize. It's just not the Nick Bosa show as much as it has been in the past. It's more spread out throughout the team. All right, man. Last question for you. Actually, I might have another one, a little bonus question, but 49ers versus Bengals prediction. I think we both agree that Sam Darnold is going to most likely be playing this weekend. How do you see this game playing out knowing that?
I think this one's going to be interesting, and I think it would be interesting even if Brock Purdy was in, because these two teams are their composition is very intriguing. Bengals obviously coming from a bye. The way that I look at it, the 49ers right now are trending down. The Bengals are trending up. They're looking much excuse me. They're looking much better, winning their last two games after starting 1-3. It seems like they're picking up the pieces. You look at the defending or the defense of the Cincinnati Bengals. That was an issue early on, but starting to see a couple of pieces kind of flourish in that defense. Dax Hill kind of replacing the safety, departed safety Jesse Bates. They lost Von Bell as well, but you got a lot of young guys on that team, I think, that are stepping up. And you look at their offense. I mean, it struggled. Joe Burrow's been injured. T. Higgins hasn't really done much, so it struggled. But the way that I look at it, I was honestly a little surprised that San Francisco started as 5.5-point favorites against the Cincinnati Bengals. And even if this game's at home, at the moment, I'm probably going to lean towards a Bengals win. The one thing that I think could tilt this in favor of the 49ers is how much they're going to be able to impact the passing game. Cincinnati's run game is horrendous. It's terrible. They haven't gotten over 100 yards once, which means the 49ers can make this one-sided, and Cincinnati's offensive line is okay. But the issue right now is it depends on how you play this, because you got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Those guys are man beaters. They beat man coverage a lot, and so you're gonna have to figure out: do you want to double Jamar Chase? What do you want to do? Because they've got a lot of solid options that can beat man coverage against a quarterback who specializes in beating man coverage. And so I do think that overall, that's going to be the true battle. Is Cincinnati going to put enough on the board to kind of surpass the 49ers? I don't know. If Brock Purdy was here, maybe you lean a different way, but I don't know if it makes too big of a difference with the way the 49ers offense has been playing. I think the offense will do fine, but they make too many mistakes at the moment, be it turnovers or be it missed field goals and things like that. And so right now, I think it's going to be a close game. I also don't think it's going to be as high scoring as I'd expect. And with Cincy coming off the bye week, with the way that they're looking right now, I'm going to lean towards them slightly.
I gotta think about it. I appreciate your take. I'm gonna cop out and wait till tomorrow before I give my predictions. So last week I asked you guys to give me your predictions in the comments after the show. And I'm gonna do it again this time because none of you guys got it right last week. I don't think anyone saw that coming. I don't know what to predict right now. 3.5-point favors is the Niners. Basically, 3 points is a home. It's because they're at home. So basically, it's like a half a point. Now, since he's coming off the bye week, that kind of negates the half a point. I have no idea who's going to win this game. I got to think about it more, and I'll give my prediction tomorrow. But if you guys want to have a chance to win something, I don't know what I'm going to give away yet. But predict the score in the comments, not in the chat here, in the comments after the video. Go predict the score. You can do it today. You can do it tomorrow. And if anyone nails it, I'll be giving something away next week. Yeah, I'm not really sure. Last question for you, man. You didn't think the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl this year. I remember talking to you about it.
Yeah.
You said they're trending down. So your feelings of the 49ers and Super Bowl chances this year are what right now?
Like, you're saying what do I think my chances or the chances are the 49ers win the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
I don't know. I put it maybe at like 20%, I'd probably say. And I think that's pretty high. I mean, odds would probably have the 49ers at less. I don't think that it's that high to win the Super Bowl. I like, if you were to give me a yes or no answer, I would probably still say no. I just think right now, the 49ers, they're a very good team. I think that they're a complete team. But ultimately, I don't know. I think we've seen this story before. Ultimately, it comes down to the playoffs. I just don't know if this team's going to compete well enough in the playoffs. I don't know if the quarterback's going to be play is going to be as good well enough in the playoffs against the upper echelon defenses. I don't know if this team is going to work together completely overall for me to be confident right now in picking them over some of the really, really solid teams. Because right now, if I look at Kansas City, their offense, you may not have, the elite receivers, but their offense is turning points. And that defense right now is elite. I think they've got a lot of elite pieces, some good cover corners, some good linebacker play, some solid D line play with Chris Jones there. Obviously, I think they've got good pieces overall. I think that that's a team where you point to them, they're complete. Can you win in a shootout against a defense like that? I don't know. And I mean, I think that there are a couple of teams like that look pretty solid right now overall across the board. And so at the moment, I'd probably still lean no. I think I was more confident than I was at the beginning of the season. I think that the start that Brock Purdy gave me provided me more confidence, but it's still probably lean no, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the NFL, man, if you get hot, again, I still think 49ers are top 3 roster in the NFL. And if you get hot at the right time, I mean, anybody has a chance. I think the 49ers have a chance, but right now it's not feeling good. But again, the 49ers could get hot the right time towards the end of the season and go on a little run. And who knows, man, anything's possible. I want to hit a couple comments. I just found this comment hilarious because, for one, it's a cat, and then the name is Relax, but then it says "we suck" again in all caps. I just thought this was a great comment. So shout out to Relax, who does not seem to be relaxed right now. Nick Nice, I know, I guarantee Rohan has no idea what this means.
Nope.
WKRP in Cincinnati, man. He brought it back. I used to watch it on my old TV, UHF, when I was going to sleep at night. It's an old TV show from the 80s. Yeah, Nick Nice, you definitely showed your age on that one and made me feel old. And I guarantee Rohan has never heard of the damn show. Have you?
Never. No, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's a pretty entertaining show back in the day. All right, fellas and ladies, excuse me. There are ladies here as well. Yeah, with the rabbit ears. Yeah, exactly. With tinfoil on it. I would put tinfoil on the rabbit ears to try to just give it that little bit of boost. Yeah, man. Hilarious. And Married with Children. Those are the shows I used to fall. Yep, and tinfoil. See, Nick, he knows how it works. Those are the shows I used to fall asleep to back in the day. And MASH. MASH used to be on the same time. Anyways, going through memory lane, man, but you guys just brought it back for me. Anyways, I hope you're liked and subscribed to both channels. I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm going to be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. with somebody. Somebody. Might be Vish. It used to be Vish. I'm going to check his schedule. It looks like he's back in town, so maybe Vish. Maybe somebody. It'll be somebody good. That much I can tell you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate you. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Rohan's channel, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. PDT. Thank you very much.